She was on the phone with her mother when it happened, laughing. Actually laughing, the kind of laugh that comes from somewhere deep and unguarded. The kind you only give to people who knew you before the world got its hands on you. Regina. I'm close, Mama. I'm so close. I can feel it. And her mother said quietly, carefully, the way mothers say things they already know. Amma. Be careful with what you can feel. Feelings don't come with armor. Regina Cross smiled at that. She always smiled at the things her mother said that she didn't want to hear. She had no idea those were the last words she would speak freely for 4 years. Because 3 hours later, the door came off its hinges. Not literally, but that's what it felt like. 4 officers, 2 warrants, 1 name printed at the top in that clean bureaucratic font that governments use when they want to destroy someone quietly. Regina Cross. Evidence tampering. Obstruction of justice. She looked at the warrant. Then she looked past the officers at her wall, at the red thread, at the name pinned at the center of everything she had spent 3 years building. Judge Kang. And she understood. He didn't just want to stop her. He wanted to make sure nobody ever believed her again. She put her hands out, and they took her. Afro-Seoul Cinema sighs softly. Welcome to Afro-Seoul Cinema. Subscribe right now and hit that notification bell. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Because before the handcuffs there was a woman, and you need to know exactly who she was before they tried to erase her. Itaewon, Seoul, 11:47 p.m., the night before everything. Her apartment was not beautiful. Let's be honest about that. It was functional in the way that a battlefield is functional. Everything exactly where it needed to be, nothing where it didn't. 3 monitors stacked and glowing against the dark. Case files in color-coded towers along the left wall. Empty coffee mugs lined up on the windowsill like little soldiers she kept forgetting to wash. And on the far wall, the map, hand-drawn, red thread connecting name after name after name, pulling every line back toward the center, the way veins pull blood back toward the heart. 1 name at the center, Judge Kang. Regina Cross was 34 years old, Nigerian-born, Seoul-trained, the kind of lawyer who made powerful men nervous not because she was loud, but because she was right. She had come to Seoul at 22 on a scholarship and never left. Not because she fell in love with the city, though she did. Eventually, in the complicated way you fall in love with a place that keeps testing you. She stayed because the work needed her. Migrant workers were denied wages and deported on fabricated charges. Foreign nationals silenced in courtrooms where nobody translated their words fully. People made invisible by a system that had decided they didn't quite count. Regina made them count. She charged almost nothing. She slept almost nothing. She ate cold rice at midnight and told her mother on Sunday calls that she was fine. She was eating, she was sleeping, all 3 of which were usually lies. Tonight, sitting cross-legged in an oversized university hoodie, reading glasses pushed up into her hair, a mug of cold coffee at her elbow, she highlighted a sentence in a document. Read it again. Then a 3rd time. Her jaw went tight. A pattern. A real one. Not a coincidence. Not an administrative error. A deliberate pattern of cases, migrant workers, foreign nationals routed through one specific judge's docket, resulting in deportations, dismissals, convictions that shouldn't have been held. Underneath all of it, connections to a network of men who benefited from keeping certain populations silent. Men connected to Judge Kang. She was almost there. Her phone buzzed, sighs softly, a smile in it. Amma. She picked up before the 2nd buzz. Regina. Mama. It's almost midnight. Amma. I know what time it is. I'm your mother, not your clock. Are you eating? Regina. Yes. Emma. That's a lie. Your voice is too light. You only sound like that when you forget to eat. Regina laughs softly. I had coffee. Emma. Coffee is not food, Regina. Coffee is a prayer with no substance. Regina laughed again, that real laugh. The one she kept for her mother and no one else. Emma, how is it going? The case? Regina, quieter now. I'm close, Mama. I'm really close. I found something tonight that connects 3 separate incidents to the same man. 3 years of looking, and it's all pointing in the same direction. Emma, a pause heavy, loving. And this man, he is powerful? Regina, very. Emma, then be careful, my daughter. Be careful with what you can feel. Feelings don't come with armor. Regina, I'm always careful. Maya, quietly. That's what worries me. They stayed on the line after that without speaking. Just breathing together across the distance, Regina in Seoul with her red thread and her cold coffee. Amma in her living room, with a fan running and a Bible on the side table. It was the kind of silence that only exists between people who know each other all the way down. Regina, I'll call you Sunday. Emma, I'll be here. I'm always here. Call ends. She didn't know that in 40 minutes, across the city in a building that smelled like old money and older power, a man would open a folder with her name on it and decide, coolly and completely, to end her. Judge Kang's private office. 12:23 a.m. Breath, the mood shifts here. Colder, slower. If Regina's apartment was a battlefield, Judge Kang's office was a museum. Everything behind glass. Everything at a careful distance. A desk so clean it looked unused. A wall of commendations and photographs. Kang shaking hands with ministers. Kang at podiums. Kang in robes. 40 years of a reputation built so carefully and so deliberately that it had stopped looking like a reputation and started looking like a fact. He was 63, silver hair, posture like a man who had never once been uncertain of his place in a room. The kind of stillness that isn't peace, it's control. His assistant entered without knocking, slid a manila folder across the desk without speaking. Kang looked at it. He opened it. Regina's photograph. Her case history. 3 years of filings, complaints, appeals, connections, all of it assembled and summarized by someone who had been watching her for a very long time. He read it without expression, without hurry. The way a man reads something he has already made his peace about. When he was done, he closed the folder, straightened his tie. Kang, handle it. His assistant picked up the folder and left. Kang turned back to his window, Seoul glittering 40 floors below him. To him, Regina Cross was not a woman. She was not a story. She was not in a fight. She was a problem that had grown large enough to require attention. And he had been attending to problems for 40 years. Sighs cold. He didn't feel guilt. That was the most frightening thing about men like Kang. It wasn't cruelty that drove them. It was indifference. And indifference doesn't tire. It doesn't flinch. It just continues. The morning. 7:41 a.m. The arrest. Breath brighter, then darkening. Regina had slept 3 hours. She was at her desk again by 6:30. A fresh mug of coffee, actually warm this time, her phone on speaker as she talked through a case development with Lee Jun-ho, the investigative journalist at the Seoul Dispatch, who had been quietly circling the same story she was building. From his side of the fence, Jun-ho, the deportation records from 2019, you're sure about the 3 names? Regina, positive. I cross-referenced them against Kang's docket twice. All 3 cases went through his courtroom. All 3 resulted in deportation within 72 hours. No appeals window, no translator on record. Junho, that's not a coincidence. Regina, no, it's a pattern. Junho, if we can pull the financial records connecting Kang to Assemblyman Choi's Housing Development Consortium, the one that needed those plots cleared. Junho, I'm already on it. I have a source inside the ministry who... 3 loud knocks at the door. Gasps startled. Regina went still. Junho, through the phone, Regina. What was that? Regina. Low. Someone's at the door. Junho, are you expecting anyone? Regina. At 7:40 in the morning? No. She set the phone face up on the desk, Junho still on the line, and walked to the door. She opened it. 4 officers. 2 in plain clothes, 1 holding a document. And behind them, the particular silence of a morning that is about to change everything. Officer. Miss Regina Cross? Regina. Steady. Too steady. Yes. Officer. You are under arrest for evidence tampering and obstruction of justice. Please come with us. Breathless silence after. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She didn't do any of the things panic asks you to do. She looked at the warrant. Read every line. Let herself understand exactly what was happening, and exactly who had made it happen. Then she looked back at her apartment, at the wall, at the red thread leading back to one name. Her eyes stayed there for 5 full seconds. Junho, faintly, from the phone on the desk, Regina. Regina, what's happening? She didn't answer him. She put her hands out. And they took her. Cheongju Women's Prison. First night. Sighs, slow, exhausted. They don't tell you what prison sounds like. Everyone focuses on what it looks like, the walls, the bars, the gray on gray of institutional everything. But it's the sound that gets you. The sound of too many people in too little space. Coughs echoing down corridors at 3 a.m. The particular metallic clang of a door being locked, not slammed, just locked, a sound so final it sits in your chest differently from anything else you've ever heard. Regina Cross sat on the edge of her cot on her first night and stared at the ceiling. She didn't cry. Not yet. She was still somewhere past crying, in that place where everything is too large to feel. So you feel nothing at all and call it holding it together. She looked at her hands. The same hands that had filed 300 cases. She had typed arguments at midnight and held weeping clients at 9 a.m., and carried Amma's voice from a phone to her ear every Sunday for 11 years. These hands, in here. She thought about Kang in his clean office. She thought about him sleeping while she sat in this room. She thought about the 40 years he had spent building a reputation that let him do this to people without consequence. And then carefully, deliberately, she stopped thinking about him, because she understood something in that moment that would carry her through everything that came after. Thinking about him was a way of giving him the room, and this room was hers. She lay back on the cot, closed her eyes. Tomorrow, she told herself. Tomorrow you start. The yard. Days 1 through 14. Hana. Breath watchful. Kim Hana had been in Cheongju for 14 years. She was 45, small and compact in the way of someone who had learned to take up exactly the space she needed and no more. Eyes that had seen everything twice and decided to trust almost nothing since. She noticed Regina the way a person notices weather before it becomes a problem. She watched her from across the yard on the first day, then the second, then the third. Not with hostility, not with curiosity, exactly. With the patient, measuring the attention of someone who has learned that new people here are either a resource or a risk, and the wise thing is to wait long enough to know which. Regina didn't try to win her over. This mattered. In a place like Cheongju, women who arrived performing warmth, performing toughness, performing anything were read immediately and discarded. There was no audience for the performance here, just other women who were tired of pretending. Regina simply existed, quietly, at her own table. She didn't smile at Hana when their eyes met. She didn't look away either. She just continued. And Hana, for the first time in years, found that interesting. The silence between them lasted exactly 14 days. On the 15th night, something slid under Regina's cell door. A folded piece of paper. Handwritten. Small, cramped letters pressed hard into the page. The way people write when they've been composing something in their head for a long time and finally found the courage to put it down. The note reads, "I have been here 14 years. My lawyer said I had no case. I have been reading your filings in the prison library. I think he was wrong. Is this sentence legal? H." Below it, a citation. A specific paragraph from the Criminal Procedure Code. Gasps softly. Regina read it twice. The citation was correct. More than correct. It was precise. The kind of precision that comes from someone who has spent 14 years reading everything they could find because understanding the system that trapped them was the only power left. She picked up her pen, wrote back. Her note reads, "Your lawyer was wrong. This sentence has a procedural error that was never appealed. It's not too late. Can we talk? R." She folded the note, slid it back under the door. That note was where their friendship began. Not with warmth, with trust. And in that place in Cheongju, where warmth could be taken from you, trust was worth everything. The outside keeps moving. Sighs outside now. Freer, but heavier, in a different way. While Regina was building something inside those walls, the world outside was doing what it always does. Moving on. Lee Junho sat in his apartment at midnight, surrounded by his own version of Regina's wall, and stared at the 3 pages of notes he had typed the night of her arrest and never published. His editor had killed the story in 11 minutes. Editor. "We can't run this, Junho." She was convicted. "The evidence is a matter of public record." Junho. "The evidence was fabricated." Editor. "That's an allegation. We don't run allegations against sitting judges, not without something airtight." He kept her name alive in footnotes, in the margins of other pieces. A reference here, a mention there, subtle enough that his editor let it pass. Substantial enough that anyone who knew to look could find the thread. He told himself it was enough. At night, he knew it wasn't. And across the city in a different kind of office, a cleaner one, Juan sat behind a prosecutor's desk and worked cases his father's reputation had paved the way for. He was 28, sharp, disciplined, genuinely good at his job. He believed in the law the way people believe in things they've never had reason to question completely, and with a particular blindness to the parts that don't hold up. His father was Judge Kang, and Juan loved his father the way sons love fathers who have never shown them anything but a tailored suit and a firm handshake. He loved the idea of him, the reputation, the legacy, until one afternoon a routine case file landed on his desk. A migrant worker. A deportation charge. His father's signature at the bottom. And a name in the margin he recognized. Regina A., Cross Defense Counsel. Juan paused. He read the deportation charge, then the court ruling, then the judge's record. The charges didn't add up. The timeline was wrong. The procedural steps weren't followed correctly. Any second-year law student could see it. He didn't call anyone. He didn't ask anyone. He quietly closed the file, placed it in the back of his drawer. Sighs troubled. That night at dinner with his father, he sat across the table and watched Kang eat with the particular contentment of a man who has arranged his world exactly as he wants it. Juan couldn't finish his food. He told himself he wasn't feeling well. He was lying to himself, which is the most expensive kind of lie. Regina starts fighting from inside. Breath building. Word spreads in prison the way it always does, slowly, then all at once. There is a woman in Block C, a lawyer. She helped Yoon Mi-ra with her case, wrote the appeal on a notepad in the common room, filed it through the legal assistant's office, and it worked. An actual hearing. After 6 years, women started finding ways to get their cases to Regina. Folded notes through Hana, whispered questions in the yard, stolen moments in the library where someone would push a file across the table and ask with their eyes rather than their voice. Regina worked every case as though it was the only one. She won the first. She lost the next 3 in a row. Breath heavier. The first loss, she was angry. She paced her cell at 2 a.m., pressing her palm flat against the cold wall and standing there, breathing, until the anger turned into something she could use. The second loss, she went quiet. 24 hours of almost total silence. Hana brought her meals, set them down, said nothing, left. The third loss. Breath slower, more painful. She sat on her cot and faced the wall, and for the first time since the first night, she cried. Not loudly, not dramatically. The kind of crying that comes out of sheer exhaustion. The kind where the tears fall before you've decided to let them, and you just let them. She pressed her forehead to her knees. Sighs long, broken. Hana appeared at the cell door. Regina didn't hear her come. She only knew she was there because of the quiet sound of a bowl being placed on the floor. She looked up. Hana was already turning to leave. Hana, without looking back, eat. You're no use to any of us half-starved. Regina looked at the bowl. Then she wiped her face on her sleeve, picked up the bowl, ate, and then she picked up her pen. Ama's calls. Sighs tender. Every Sunday, without fail, Regina looked forward to those calls the way you look forward. To things that are both comfort and pain at the same time, the way you look forward to photographs of people you miss. Amma, how is the food? Regina, it's food. Amma, that's bad? Regina, there is a woman here who makes something with the rice that I think is an act of protest. I respect her for it. Amma, laughing real, warm, and Regina laughed too. In that cell, surrounded by those sounds, she laughed. Amma, are you sleeping? Regina, some. Amma, some are better than none. Some are progress. Regina, how are you, Mama? Tell me something real. Silence on the line just a moment. Just enough. Amma, I am here. I am always here. The neighbor's son came to fix the ceiling fan last week. It took him 4 hours. I fed him twice. Regina, quietly, Mama. Amma, what? Regina, tell me something real. A longer pause. Amma, softer now I think about you every hour. Not in a worried way, in a watching way. Like I can see you from here, even when I can't. Does that make sense? Regina, yes. Amma, good. Then I don't need to explain it. What Regina heard in the pauses, she didn't name it out loud. Not to her mother, not to herself, but she heard it. A little more breath between words, a slight slowing of the pace, the particular texture of a voice carrying more weight than it used to. Her mother was not well. She wasn't saying it. She would not say it not to burden Regina, not to give the prison one more thing to hold over her daughter's head. But Regina heard it. And in those moments, she understood what her real clock was. Not 12 years. Her mother. She had to get out. Not just for herself. For the woman on the other end of that Sunday call, who was spending her own limited time pretending to have all the time in the world. Sighs pulling back gently. Intimate. Stay with me. Because I need you to feel what's about to happen. If this story has already found you, if Regina has already found you, this is the moment to share this video with someone. Someone who needs to hear a story about a woman who refused to become the worst thing that happened to her. Subscribe if you haven't. Drop a comment below. Tell me, what would you have done in Regina's place? Because the next part is where everything starts to unravel. And it begins with a man who visited a prison not to see Regina but to make sure she stayed broken. Kang comes to Cheongju. Breath quiet, dangerous. Nobody told Regina he was coming. Hana saw the car first. Black, private plates. The kind of car that parks exactly where it isn't supposed to, because it belongs to someone who has never been told no by a parking attendant in his life. She watched the man step out. Suit, silver hair. The particular posture of someone who moves through the world, expecting it to adjust to him. She watched him walk into the warden's office. She stood in the yard for 11 minutes, she counted, until he walked back out, got in the car, and left. That evening in the yard, she sat beside Regina, Hana, without looking at her. A man came today. Black car, private plates. Spent 11 minutes with the warden. Left without touring the facility. Without speaking to any staff other than the warden. Regina was very still. Hana, tall, silver hair, expensive suit. The kind of man who smiles like he's doing you a favor by smiling. Regina, quietly. Did you catch a name? Hana. No, but I caught something else. When he left, the warden was different. Not scared, exactly, but adjusted. Like someone had reminded him of something he'd forgotten. Regina, long pause. He came to check. Hana, check what? Whether I was still afraid of him. Hana, looking at her now. Are you? Silence. Full and complete. Regina, I'm afraid of wasting the fear, so I'm saving it for something useful. Sighs. Hana studies her. Hana, you're a very strange woman, Regina Cross. Regina, almost smiling, I've been told. That night, in her cell, Regina took a small piece of paper from the back of her legal pad. She thought for a long time. Then she wrote something. Just a few lines. She folded the paper once. Tucked it deep inside the spine of the legal pad, behind the cardboard backing. We don't see what it says. Not yet, but remember it, because it will mean everything later. The dilemma. Hana's release. Gasps, unexpected. It came without warning. Early release. Hana's application, the one Regina had spent 3 months helping her build, argument by argument, on the backs of envelopes and salvaged notepads, had been approved. 14 years. And suddenly, a door. Hana stood in the doorway of Regina's cell at 6 in the morning with her small bag packed and her face doing something Regina had never seen it do before. Struggling. Hana, not meeting her eyes at first. I have something to tell you. Regina, sitting up, instantly alert. What? Hana. There is a conversation I overheard 3 years ago. Before you arrived, I was cleaning the corridor near the warden's office, and the door wasn't fully closed. Breath. Regina is very still. Hana. 2 men. One was the warden. The other, I didn't see, only heard. They were talking about a case being managed from outside, about making sure a specific appeal never reached the review board, about keeping someone contained. Those were the words they used. Contained. Regina. Quietly. Hana. Hana. I didn't know who they were talking about then, But after you came, after I read your filings, after I understood what you'd been working on, I think I do now. Regina, standing now. That conversation, if you testify to it. Hana, I know. Regina. They will come after you. They will find a way to. Hana, firmly I know, Regina. Silence full and heavy. Hana, I also know that I am walking out of here today, with my own life. With 14 years I am never getting back, and I have a choice about what I do with what's left of it. Hana, I have been afraid for a very long time. I am so tired of being afraid. Regina, her voice cracking just barely. Hana, you don't have to do this. Hana, picking up her bag, I know I don't have to. She walked to the door, paused with her back to Regina. Hana, that's why I'm choosing to. Breath long, full of emotion. Regina watched the empty doorway for a long time after she left. She didn't let herself feel hope. Not yet. In here, hope without evidence was just another kind of pain. But something in her chest shifted quiet and real, like a door that has been locked from the inside for years, slowly, carefully, beginning to open. Jun-ho. The story lands wrong. Sighs outside now, the weight of the real world. Lee Jun-ho published the story on Tuesday. The full investigation. 3 years of work, every connection, every name, every document trail that led from Kang's courtroom to the Assemblyman's Consortium to the deportations to Regina's arrest. He pushed it live at 8 a.m., with hands that wouldn't quite stop shaking. By 11 a.m., a major political scandal broke across 3 major networks. A cabinet minister, financial fraud, numbers that made people's eyes go wide. The kind of story that was louder, simpler, faster to digest. By evening, Jun-ho's story had 212 views. Breath the devastation of it. He sat at his desk, read the view count again, refreshed it. 219. The truth had come out, and the world had just scrolled past. Sighs broken. He put his head in his hands. He sat like that for a long time. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't pick up. He was too tired for unknown numbers, too defeated for conversations that required him to function. He picked up. June. Hello? Regina. Jun-ho. Gasps. He nearly knocks his chair over. Jun-ho. How are you calling me? Are you out? Did something... Regina. Low. Urgent. I have 5 minutes. A guard who owes Hana a favor. Listen to me carefully. Jun-ho. Regina. The story, it didn't reach anyone. The news cycle just... Regina. I know. Jun-ho. 200 views. 200 views. Regina. Jun-ho. Stop. Listen. Breath. He stops. Regina. Keep the story up. Do not take it down. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not when your editor tells you to archive it. Not when it becomes inconvenient. Not for anyone. Can you do that? Jun-ho. Quietly. Yes. And the follow-up piece, the one you've been building alongside it, is it ready? Jun-ho. Almost. I need 2 more. Regina. Finish it. Make it undeniable. And then wait. Don't publish until I tell you. Jun-ho. Regina. Regina. I know what I'm asking. I know the timing feels wrong, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? A long pause. Jun-ho, barely above a whisper, I never stopped. Regina, and her voice just for a moment cracks, I know. Thank you, Jun-ho. Call ends. Jun-ho sat in his apartment for a long time after. The silence felt different now. Not like defeat, like anticipation. He opened his laptop and started finishing the follow-up piece. Ju-won and his father. Breath slow. building. It took Juan 3 months to get it right. Not the words. He knew the words from the first week. What took 3 months was the courage to say them to a man he had spent his entire life believing in. He walked into his father's office on a Thursday afternoon, sat down without being invited, placed the file on the desk, open. Kang looked at the file, then at his son. His expression didn't change. Ju-won. Steady barely the Park Sung-min case. 2021. Migrant worker. Deported within 72 hours of a ruling from your courtroom. No translator on record. No appeal window. And it doesn't hold up, Father. The charges don't fit. The timeline is wrong. This man should never have been deported. Silence. Kang. Measured, unhurried. Cases are complex, Jae-won. A case file doesn't always capture the full picture. Ju-won, then help me see the full picture. Because what I can see from this file is that the original defense attorney, the one who should have caught this, was arrested 4 months before this ruling. On charges that I've been looking at very carefully. His voice drops. Father, did you know about this case before you ruled on it? The silence full and terrible. And here is what no one expected. Something crosses Kang's face. Just for a moment. Something that looks almost like the beginning of a confession. Like a man standing at the edge of something real and deciding, in real time, not to jump. Then he straightens, folds his hands on the desk. Kang. You should go home, Jae-won. You look tired. Sighs the devastation of it. Ju-won looked at his father for a long time. He looked at the face he had known his entire life. The face in the photographs on the wall. He picked up the file. He stood. He walked to the door. And he didn't slam it. He closed it softly. A small, quiet click. Because that softness, that controlled, deliberate click, was Ju-won letting something go. Something he had carried his whole life without knowing the weight of it until this moment. The belief that his father was a good man. The silent move. Breath quiet, late, alone. 7:43 p.m. Ju-won's office. Everyone else went home. The file opens on his desk. The appeals board electronic submission portal opens on his screen, his cursor hovering over the upload field. His phone rang. He looked at the screen. Dad. 4 rings. 5. 6. He watched it ring. He didn't move. He let it go to voicemail. Let the silence come back. Then he looked at the screen again, found the file, clicked upload. Typed 4 sentences in the submission notes, precise, clinical, undeniable. Moved his hand to the submit button. Breath, a pause that lasts forever. He pressed it. Submission confirmed. Case reference 2024 app 7741. Timestamp 7:46 p.m. Ju-won closed his laptop. He sat in the dark office for a long time without moving. Not proud, exactly. Not relieved, exactly. Something simpler and harder than either of those things, still. For the first time in months, all the way down to his bones still. The reckoning. The call in the cell. Breath, the turn. Regina was reading when the guard appeared. Not the usual guard. A different one, younger, with the kind of face that hasn't fully learned to hide what it feels yet. She stood in the doorway of Regina's cell and looked at her with an expression that took Regina a moment to name. Awe. Guard. Cross. You have a meeting with the Appeals Review Board. Tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. She left. Breath. The world stopping. Regina set down her book. She looked at her hands. Both of them, turned them over slowly, as though she were checking very carefully that they were still hers. Then she looked up at the ceiling. Sighs long, slow, real. And we stayed with her. 10 full seconds. No music, no narration, just Regina's face. In those 10 seconds, everything. 4 years of cold mornings. 4 years of losing cases and picking up the pen again. 4 years of Amma's voice growing slightly slower, slightly softer, slightly more weighted in the pauses. 4 years of Hana's food was placed silently at her door. 4 years of a folded piece of paper hidden in the spine of a legal pad. 4 years of saving the fear for something useful. All of it. On her face. In 10 seconds. Tuesday morning. Walking out. Breath 7 degrees. A silver sky. There was no fanfare. No cameras at the gate. No press release. No official statement. Just the quiet, procedural click of a gate opening that had been closed for 4 years. Regina walked through in her own clothes for the first time. She had forgotten how different it felt. Her own jacket, her own shoes. The cold air reached her face, without a wall to stop it. Hana was waiting 20 meters from the gate, just her. Small and still in a dark coat, breath visible in the cold air, hands in her pockets. They looked at each other across the distance. Neither moved for a long moment. Then Hana walked toward her, closed the gap, reached out and straightened the collar of Regina's jacket, carefully, precisely. The way you straighten someone's collar when words feel inadequate and your hands want to say something. That was the reunion. Just that. And it was everything. Hana, barely above a whisper, welcome back. Regina, looking at her eyes full, thank you. For everything you... Hana, don't. You'll make me cry, and I have spent 14 years building a reputation. Laughs, both of them, sudden and real and helpless. Breath, the laughter settling into something warm and full. 3 days. The world catches up. Sighs the world now, moving around her. 3 days. That's how long it took for the world to catch up. Junho's article, which had sat at 212 views for months, suddenly began to climb. 50 shares, 500. By the end of day 1, 7,000. By the end of day 2, over 40,000. As the news of Regina's exoneration reached people who hadn't known the story existed, the truth, it turned out, had just been waiting for the world to be ready to hear it. Assemblyman Choi Byung-rae released a statement carefully worded, heavy on phrases like due process and institutional integrity before Regina had even left the appeals building. His office was very efficient about that. Kang's lawyers were preparing. 3 separate colleagues quietly began distancing themselves from Kang in the way powerful men distance themselves from other powerful men when the ground starts to shift not dramatically, not visibly, just a slight adjustment of posture, a recalibration of how publicly they associated their names. And everyone, every journalist, every camera, every viewer who had heard even a fragment of the story was waiting for the same thing. The fire, the anger, the revenge. The wronged woman stepped to the microphone and made the man who destroyed her life pay for it in front of the entire city. That's the story everyone was ready for. That's not the story Regina gave them. The press conference. Breath slow. Building. Enormous. The room was full. Every seat taken. Cameras lined 3 deep along the back wall. Kang was not in the room. He had sent lawyers, 3 of them, in a row near the side wall, with the particular stillness of people paid to look unafraid. Regina walked in. Black dress, no jewelry, hair back, no notes. The room went quiet when she entered. Not politely quiet, genuinely quiet. The kind of quiet that happens when a room full of people realize they are in the presence of something they don't quite have a category for yet. She stood at the microphone, looked out at the cameras, to the journalists, at the lawyers along the wall. Breath long, real, the sound of someone collecting themselves completely. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a small folded piece of paper. The piece of paper. The one she had written in her cell. The one she had hidden in the spine of her legal pad. The one we had been waiting for. She looked at it once. Just once. Then she set it flat on the podium in front of her, smoothed it with her palm, and looked directly into the cameras. Regina, steady, not loud, not angry, just clear. I want to say one thing, and then I will take your questions. Regina, I forgive Judge Kang. The silence, it lands like a physical thing. Regina, not for him. Not because what he did was acceptable, or small, or forgivable in the ordinary sense of that word. He took 4 years of my life. He tried to take my voice. He tried to take the cases of every person I had ever defended. He tried to take the work. Regina, but I have been carrying him for 4 years. His name, his face. The 43 seconds it took him to close that file and say, "Handle it." Sighs, her voice drops, just slightly, just enough. Regina, I refuse to carry him for 1 more day. I put him down, here, in front of all of you, because the weight of a man like that is not mine to carry, and I have work to do. I forgive Judge Kang. He will not take 1 more day. Gasps from somewhere in the 3rd row, a journalist who tries to cover it with her hand. The silence stretches 5 seconds. 6, 7. Nobody moves. Nobody speaks. Nobody was ready for grace. Kang's lawyers certainly weren't. Because there is no legal defense you can prepare against grace. You cannot counter it. You cannot spin it. You cannot reduce it to a talking point. You can only stand beside it and be seen for exactly who you are in comparison. And everyone in that room, every camera, every journalist, every person watching on a screen somewhere in Seoul held those 2 images next to each other. The man in his clean office said to handle it, and the woman who said I forgive him sighs the scale of it. The woman won, not because she was louder, because she was undeniable. The aftermath. Breath quieter now. The dust settling. Judge Kang resigned 11 days later. His statement was 2 sentences long. It cited personal reasons and thanked the court for 40 years of service. No accountability, no acknowledgement, no admission. But it didn't matter, because the forgiveness had done something no accusation could have done. It had made him visible. Not as a monster people can file monsters away, categorize them, keep them at a manageable distance. It made him small. And smallness, for a man who had built 40 years on the illusion of size, was its own kind of ruin. Every room he entered now held that press conference against him. Every handshake, every dinner, every courthouse corridor. People looked at him, and they thought about that room. That silence. That woman at the microphone with her folded piece of paper and her 4 years and her refusal to become what had been done to her. You cannot outrun grace. Nobody can. Junho published the follow-up investigation the following week. Full, airtight, undeniable. He called Regina the evening before it went live. Junho, it's ready. Regina. All of it? Junho. Every name. Every connection. Every document. It's everything, Regina. Regina, a pause. And then, simply, make it count. Junho, quietly I will. Assemblyman Choi stepped down from his committee chairmanship within the month, citing health reasons, in the way politicians cite health reasons when they mean something else entirely. 3 deportation cases were reopened for review. And Juwon Kang's son called Regina once, 2 weeks after the press conference, late in the evening. She almost didn't recognize the number. She picked up. Juwon, Miss Cross, Regina. Carefully, Juwon. A pause. Yuwon. Quiet. The quietness of someone who has been rehearsing this and still can't quite get it right. I'm sorry for what he did, for what I didn't do sooner, for every day that you were in there while I was… Regina. Juwon. Juwon. Stopping. Regina. Gently, I know. Breath. The simplicity of it. Juwon. Barely above a whisper. Okay. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Then, they both hung up. No resolution. No friendship built overnight. No bridge perfectly constructed across the canyon of what his father did and what he took 3 months to stop. Just two people, on opposite sides of the same truth, trying to figure out how to live with it. That's all. That's enough. Itaewon, same desk. Breath, home, her apartment. Itaewon, 3rd floor, the same building. Someone had kept her plants alive. She never found out who. 3 monitors. A fresh mug of coffee, actually warm this time. A new case file opens on the center screen. The wall behind the desk was bare. She had taken the red thread down on her first night back. Not because the fight was over, but because that fight was. And a new one was beginning. Size full, present. She was reading, making notes. The same posture she always had, forward, focused, glasses on. One hand moving across the page and the other holding the edge of the desk as though the work might try to run from her. She was not healed. She would not pretend that 4 years could be unwound by a press conference and a formal apology that had never actually come. She carried things now that she hadn't carried before, a certain carefulness that hadn't been there, a tendency to pause before doors. But she was not broken. That would mean Kang had won something, and Kang had won nothing. She was just back. Her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. Amma. She smiled, before she even picked up that same unguarded smile, the one from the last night before everything changed, the one she had kept alive in Sunday calls and borrowed time and cold coffee and 4 years of folded notes and fought for mornings. He hadn't taken it. He couldn't. She picked up. Amma, my daughter, you sound tired. Regina, smiling into the phone. I'm close, Mama. I'm so close. Laughs Amma, long and warm and full. The laugh of a woman who has been waiting to hear those exact words from her daughter for 4 years. Amma, then go. Go be close. I'm not going anywhere. Regina. Softly, I know, Mama. The camera pulls back slowly through the apartment window. Seoul below enormous, indifferent, beautiful, full of people who need someone to fight the way she fights. Regina Cross at her desk. Cold coffee. New case. Same heart. Same heart. Sighs the sound of something complete. Breath intimate. Warm. Close. Sighs softly. She didn't destroy him. She just refused to become him. And if this story reached somewhere real in you tonight, if Regina sat with you, if you felt what she felt even for a moment, then you already understand why we tell stories like this. This is Afro Soul Cinema. This is where we come for the ones that stay. Subscribe if this is your first time here. Share this with the person in your life who needs to hear it tonight. Like this video so more people can find it. And drop a comment below. Tell me this. What do you think was written on that piece of paper she unfolded at the podium? Because everyone has a different answer. And every answer is right. Thank you for staying until the end. The next story is already on its way, and it will find you right when you need it. Stay with us. This story is written by Afro Soul Cinema, an original production. All characters are fictional.